What's up, guys? You're listening to the Guy from the podcast, and I'm here joined with Lils and the one and the only Ricky Olson. How's it going? How's everyone doing?
Great. Thank you for having me. I'm very
thank you for
excited to be
coming
here.
on.
Thank you so much for taking the time.
Yeah, of course.
So I think first off, we wanted to talk about, just breeze over, like, we know it's been a long year of the Trinity of Terror, and then you had Shiprocked and all this stuff. How do you feel that that's finally over? Is it cool to relax?
I feel like relax for me is such a foreign word, because I don't know. I have this just super overproductive, overworking attitude where it's like if I'm not doing something or working towards something at every moment throughout the day, I feel like I'm just wasting time and wasting my day. So when I come home from tours, it's a lot of just, okay, now what is my next thing that I'm working on now that I'm home and I have time to do my own thing and work on my own stuff. But to answer your question, yes, it feels very nice to be home and do something different and shift gears outside of touring. But I'm excited to get back out there and start doing it again. It's crazy to go back like full force ahead from doing nothing for 2 years. Like jumping back into last year was like, holy shit, this is insane. There's so much going on, and there's just it was like 0 to 100 overnight. But now that we're back in the swing of it, it feels great. I'm excited.
I'm glad. I mean, I'm sure it was a really long year too. It was from like March to December, right? Is that like a...
Yeah, it was 3 different legs, but it was kind of spaced out over the year. And yeah, it was a lot. At the end, we were like, can we do something else? Can we just tour with anybody else in the world and do a different tour? Not that it was like bad with, it was just, I don't want that to come across as like,
no, I get
we
it.
were just tired of people, but it was just, you're doing the same tour in the same types of rooms with the same bands, the same crew. It just feels like you're living this weird Groundhog Day type thing. And at the end of the year, it was like, Jesus Christ, now we can have like a breath of fresh air and something new and see some different faces and go to some different places. But yeah, it was a great tour and the turnouts were awesome. And I'm glossing over the fact that it was like the best touring year we've ever had. But yeah, it was a tour for sure. It was a big one.
How are you feeling about going on tour with Beartooth now?
Very excited. Very excited. I think Beartooth is one of the few bands that we've really, really hit it off with over the years, which is so strange because I think personality-wise, they're like complete opposite of us. Or maybe they're not. Maybe they're more similar to us than I realize, but the personas that I feel like they have feels very opposite of all of us. But for some reason, we just click so well, and it doesn't happen very often. So when it does, it's very cool to like go out with a band like that and just feel like every day is a hangout.
No, I saw you
because
guys.
You guys toured. Oh,
no,
whoa!
Go ahead. You're good. Sorry.
So no, you're good, bud. You guys have toured with Beartooth in the past, correct?
Yes.
Was that like? Because I think I saw you guys when you toured with Stick to Your Guns and Beartooth, and that was before the pandemic, I believe. How does it feel to like, have you guys like been able to reconnect since the pandemic, or is this kind of like the big reunite moment for you?
Wow. Yeah. So that tour, I think, was the last tour that we did right before the pandemic happened.
Yeah.
But I think, so since then, we've kind of seen different people from the band in passing in different areas. but we haven't seen everybody all at once. Like on one of the legs of the tour last year, Connor, the drummer from Beartooth, came out to one of the Florida shows. Caleb came out to the LA show. So we've kind of seen people in different areas, and it's been really cool to catch up. And it's going to be a big, like, yes, everybody's together. It's going to be sick.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah, I saw the Disease in the Skies one in New York. I think it was at Webster Hall, which was insane. Like, I feel like the crowd meshed well with both Beartooth fans and Motionless fans. I feel like it was a good mix. And this one being a Europe tour, I feel like everyone loves you guys over there. Because how often do you get to go play Europe?
I think that's one of the kind of interesting benefits of going to Europe is that or I guess I should say, because bands don't go there very often, it feels like fans care way more when you do come. And so, whereas here in the States, it feels like fans are kind of spoiled because we're in one of their cities. Yeah. So it's like, oh, well, if I don't go to this show, I'll just catch them in like 3 or 4 months when they come back. Whereas European fans or like South American fans, they have no fucking clue when we're coming back. So everybody shows up, and it's like a big thing. And so, yeah, it's really cool to do that and be back in Europe. It's been a long time since we've been there. I think I missed part of that question.
No. You answered it perfectly fine.
Okay.
But being like outside of the U.S., technically Shiprocked went like outside.
Yeah.
And it was more like a vacation, chilling out, doing your thing. I love the photo with the monkeys, by the way.
Thank you.
I think that was one of my favorite things. Do you have a favorite animal?
I don't know if I do. I used to be a really big cat person. But I don't know. I think that I like the idea of, like, I don't know, little cryptids and creepy, weird things rather than having a favorite animal.
That's fair.
I don't know.
I mean, I like animals, but I don't know if I could choose a favorite too. So, anyways, off topic.
And then, well, I think the difficult thing with that is then I start thinking about, okay, well, every animal has some sort of like undertone meaning, and if I choose a specific thing, that am I like saying something that I don't want to say by saying that something is my favorite animal and not knowing what that underlying meaning,
all
you know
the
what I mean?
hidden messages behind a favorite animal.
Exactly. Yes.
I think we might
so
be
I don't know
overthinking it a little too much.
It's like those BuzzFeed quizzes that is like, what is your favorite food say about you? And it's like, oh God, am I about to have like a whole awakening of who I actually am through a BuzzFeed article? Hell yeah.
That's what I'm saying. I don't want people to be like, so since your favorite animal is this, it looks like you're, whatever. Yeah.
I love it.
And now I'm going to go into your creative side more, if that's cool with you.
Okay.
So I saw you put out a video yesterday, and it like totally bugged me out because it kind of took it to where I wanted to go in this podcast. So when you uploaded that,
really?
I'm like, oh wow. Yeah. Because I've always been like a fan of your creative side and your directing and all that stuff. So I kind of wanted to ask, like, what is your thought process when you go into like directing your music videos and stuff? I know you've done a few.
I'm trying to think of the best way to say this without going into an hour-long conversation. It really is dependent on what the project is or what the specific story is. I think Yeah, it's really project dependent how I approach things. I think the one underlying thread through everything that I do is always about kind of how do we tell this story, or what are we trying to say with what we're doing. And I think that was a really big thing with the Thoughts and Prayers video that I did. And Chris and I went back and forth for like 2 weeks about just how do we say, like, he gave me this idea of, here's what the song's about. How do we kind of, here's what I want to say in the video. How do we do that visually? And there was a bunch of instances of him saying, well, I want to do this or this, and me saying, okay, but what does that mean to the visual part of it? You know, because if we're showing people something, it has to mean something. It can't just arbitrarily throw shit around and then have it not mean anything, because that's typically what I like to do when I'm shooting stuff. Is everything that I'm showing is with purpose and with intention, and I want people to see specific things in a specific way for whatever reason. And so that was where him and I kind of had this disconnect of, he wanted to shoot specific things because he thought that the shots would be cool. And I'm coming from a place of, yes, those are great and those would be sick, but those don't really support the story that we're trying to tell. And so it was a lot of back and forth of, okay, but what about this? How do we do this? What about this? And that was probably 3 months before we actually shot the video. And then it was another maybe month and a half of planning and trying to get everything figured out as far as how we're going to get the set built, how we're going to get specific gear, how we're going to get like the blood stuff, how are we going to do that.
Yeah, how was that? Was that like your idea, the whole blood raining kind of?
Yeah, so that, I can't remember how that spawned, but it came about in the conversation that we had about how do we want to do this. And it was part of the concept of these people who are dying in the video, this is their blood being poured on the character or whatever. And we talked about wanting it to be sort of in the same vein as the blood rave from Blade.
Okay.
And
Nice.
obviously we kind of got there, but a lot of the blood ended up having to be added in post because we didn't backlight any of it. So like none of it showed up.
Really?
And so, and it's crazy because the thing that we were using to get the blood was a popcorn texture sprayer for the wall. And it was spitting out these fat globs, and we were like, this is going to look so sick. And then I pull everything into the editing, and I'm like, I don't see anything. There's like little bits here and there.
But it's crazy because before you even would say that, I would not have known that it was post.
It's I think that's the, when you do something practically, it lends itself way better to adding stuff in special effects after the fact, rather than just trying to add it all. Like if we had never done the blood in real life, it would have probably not looked anywhere near as cool as it does. So thankfully it worked out. It was a lot of finessing on my part to get it to be as perfect as I could. It's not 100% there, but it gets the job done, and I'm happy with how it turned out. But to circle back around and answer your question, it really is project specific as far as how I approach things. I feel like I said, the common thread between all of it is just, what are we trying to say? And I think that is where that video came from yesterday. Was I'd recorded 2 or 3 videos ahead of time to post for like future uploads. And I just kept watching them and being like, who is this for? Like, they're cool videos and I'm proud of making them, but who is watching these? because it's not necessarily for me. I love making the videos, and I think that's where I'm stoked, is just to shoot something and edit it together and make some cohesive thing. But at the end of the day, it's like this really doesn't have the soul of what I like to do when I'm doing stuff like this. And so that's where that video came from, was just kind of like over the top beating myself up about like, you're not doing the shit that you started doing with this channel. Maybe we should get back to that. And yeah.
But is that something that you kind of want to do, or just because you feel like your viewers want to see necessarily?
That's a good question. I think that a lot of it just comes from myself. So the beginning, around this time of last year, I started posting tour updates from the first Trinity of Terror tour. And I was like, I'm going to just start doing this regularly and just see what happens. I'm going to do it for a year, see where it goes. And if it's cool, then I'll just stick with it. If not, then whatever. So I kind of put this unintended pressure on myself to create things, which is cool because it keeps me busy and it keeps my creative juices flowing. And I'm constantly like, okay, what am I going to shoot for this week? Or what kind of thing do I want to make? And again, I think that along the way, I got lost in just the process of making the videos and not really thinking about what am I trying to say here, and what is the purpose of me making this? Because at the end of the day, I want to be a storyteller, and I think that at my heart, I am a storyteller. And I think that by kind of going off the rails of making videos that I just feel like they're fine, but it's just like, this isn't really saying anything. And it feels like I'm just creating without direction. And so I think that it's more for me that I'm like, I need to just reel this back in and kind of get back on track and do the things that I started this channel for, which was short films and little stupid sketches and making actual things instead of just videos of me walking around my house being like, okay, here's what I'm doing today. Because that just feels so like, it's fine. And I know that people appreciate those kinds of videos, but for me, it just feels like there's no intention behind it. So that's where that's coming from.
Okay, so less of like vlog stuff, more of something just... I remember this one video specifically that you posted. I forgot the title of it, but you were on a boat, and it was the take a break or something like that, and like enjoy life. That video, changed my mind, like blew my mind.
Thank you.
From like, I guess, a person that's exactly like you, where just keep doing things nonstop and kind of just not giving your brain the break. I feel like that video was kind of needed for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And it told the story. So the shower part,
you
were standing in the shower. It's great.
Yeah, those are the types of videos that I want to get back to, is just kind of getting out of my, I don't know, taking the stuff I have in here and putting it out there and making some sort of statement with it, regardless of what that is. And I think that's ultimately where I want to end up. We'll see.
Well, I'm here for it. I'm excited to see what you put out in the future.
Hell yeah.
What project that you have like recently started or done in the past, like which project would you say that you're the most proud of?
In any creative sense?
Any creative sense, yeah. Like, could be music, could be YouTube, could be like anything. Like, what project are you the most like stoked about?
Man, so funny because I feel like I've accomplished so many little things that I've wanted to do, and as I do them, they just feel like another checkbox. Like, okay, what's next? What do I want to do next? And I never really take the time to sit down and be like, wow, I really did that. I think one of the things is I wrote a little short story book, and like 5 years ago at this point, and that was something that I had always wanted to do, but never really gave it the time or the effort. I did a short film, and also years ago at this point, and that was something that was like a big project, and I hired actors, and that doing that, even though nobody ended up seeing it, was a very huge accomplishment for me. And right now I'm working on a book, a novel.
Oh, wow.
So I've been consistently hammering out about 1,000 words a day. So I'm on track.
Can you tell us like what the book is kind of going to be about, or is it like big mystery?
So I can tell you that it is set in a post-apocalyptic world.
Incredible.
And it is a love story of sorts.
Okay. Cute. Cute.
As cute as love in an apocalyptic wasteland can be, I guess. It's kind of, I think that for people that have read anything that I've done before in the past, it's a little bit more of, because all of the stuff that I've written as far as my short stories and all that is very kind of dealing with super heavy topics in a non-serious way and kind of poking fun at them just for the sake of being like, you know, shit's not that serious, it's not a big deal. And this is much more like everything is a big deal, and it's much more serious, I guess. It feels more adult-like in the way that it's written so far, and it's very, very bleak. It's like the darkest shit I've ever written.
Nice.
It's like, not, my other shit is much more, you read something kind of dark and then it either leaves you with a sort of question at the end where you're kind of like, oh, interesting, that's a weird way to think about that, or it leaves off with a humorous note that you can kind of chuckle at. This, there is none of that. It's like it gets worse and worse and worse as the story goes, and I think that at the end it's a story that is meant to be kind of hopeless. And I feel like I've always been really drawn to stories that show how tragic life can be. And like, one of my favorite movies of all time as far as like a drama or romance movie is Blue Valentine with Ryan Gosling.
Yeah.
Just because, and I know that so many people hate that movie because it ends on a down note and because it's so dark and tragic, but it's one of my favorite movies because it feels so realistic in how how it portrays love and loss. And I think that is kind of the same type of vein that I'm hitting on with this story, is a lot of like, shit is hard and it sucks, and dealing with loss is not easy. And it took me a long time to really get into the writing of it, just because of being like, when I write stories, I typically will kind of like, I don't know, like sit here and act as the characters and like say the lines and kind of do the motions of what they're doing in the moment to figure out how how they would say things and what their mannerisms would be like and how they would respond to other people. And so I knew that going into this, I was going to be kind of inhabiting that kind of mental state. And I was like, man, I don't know if I want to go there. But it's been a lot easier than I thought it was going to be, just as far as being able to kind of like detach myself from that, like get into it, feel the emotion, kind of go through what that character might be feeling, and then step back and be like, okay, that's this person's feelings, not mine. And
like
and I
completely
can shut
snap
it
out
off.
of it.
Yeah. But it's been interesting. It's been a journey into my own kind of emotional state and mental state, because a lot of the stuff that it hits on is stuff that I have gone through or have been going through, and it's kind of a way for me to just purge, get over some shit and get through stuff that I feel like easier for me to analyze and move forward if I have somebody else take it and I can look at it objectively through their eyes.
Totally.
So it's dark. Bottom line.
Love it.
Yeah.
I think it's cool when people can, like, going back to what you were saying about like getting into that moment and feeling all of those like really intense feelings and acting them out as if like you're the one that is like at that moment going through it, and then pulling back. It's like you're in work mode and then you're just like totally carefree after it. But it's like when you're writing, it's like you're so involved in what's in front of you, and it's like you have to like really look at all of it. And I think it's cool that you actually speak and like act as if you are a character in the book. I think that that's going to be like a really cool way, and like kind of reading that, I think it's really cool.
Yeah, I think that a dialogue specifically is really hard to do well, and I think a lot of times it's because people don't consider like how people actually talk in real life. So I think that's an important part of me for fleshing out the characters, as well as just making sure that the dialogue feels authentic and feels like, would this character actually say that? Would they actually use that word? Or am I just putting this in there because it sounds cool or sounds neat? And yeah, so it's been an experience, to say at the very least.
That's like all insane to take in. The fact that you're putting in so much work behind everything else too.
Yeah.
How long has that been in the works for?
Oh man, I started writing. Well, I came up with the idea, I think it was a couple years ago when it was the second year of the pandemic. And I was writing a lot of scripts and trying to come up with a lot of outlines for just plots for just short films. And I came up with this outline that I'd written a few paragraphs for originally intended for a script. And I just kind of, I didn't have the time or the resources to just go out and shoot it. So I was like, I'm going to just hold off on that and put it in my back pocket. And then a few weeks ago, I was on my laptop looking through documents, and I came across that outline, and I read through it, and it, like, every part of it was like, it was like every piece of it was like somebody had stabbed me in the heart and then just twisted. And then the more I read, the more the knife twists. And then at the end, I was like kind of emotional. And I was like, man, I didn't even fucking write the story yet. And just the outline alone and how fucking sad and tragic that is, for it to affect me that way, I feel like there's something there, and that's something that I need to tell. And regardless of how it's received or if people like it or not, I think that it's important for me to tell, because there's a lot of me in the story. And again, I think that it just goes back to me wanting to kind of process some stuff, that I feel like I need to process. And yeah, I feel like I'm a very big supporter of the fact that I think that everybody has a story to tell, regardless of what that outlet is. And I'm not writing the story for people. I'm not writing it because of any specific reason. I'm writing it for myself, and hopefully it's something that I can share and people will resonate with to some degree, even though it will probably make you want to crawl into a hole and not come out for a week afterward. But I'm hoping that people will resonate with it.
I mean, sometimes it doesn't always have to be the most uplifting things for people to like.
That's true. Yeah.
I feel like we all watch some dark movies and read some dark things. And honestly, it could be a good coping mechanism for people as well. So.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's part of the reason why people read books and watch movies and stuff, is because you get to kind of live this other life through somebody else's eyes, and it opens your worldview and exposes you to things you otherwise wouldn't see or hear or think about. And I think that that's important just as a growing thing for being a human, you know?
Yeah. And
when you're watching movies, like, because you do video and photography, do you ever get frustrated, like, watching how things are filmed and you're like, oh, I would have done that differently, kind of thing? Because I'm a makeup artist, and I know that when I see things in movies, I'm like, I would have done this differently, or they're using the wrong consistency of blood, like, it needs to be fixed now. Like, do you ever get that, like, when you're watching movies or like TV shows and stuff?
Not really. Only if stuff is really like glaringly bad. Like if there's a mistake that I'm like, why did this get left in? Or that was not consistent with anything else that was leading up to this. But no, because I think a lot of times I go into that kind of stuff knowing that everything is done with intention and purpose. And, if there's a mistake, usually it's covered up pretty well. Yeah. So I try not to analyze too deep into that. But I do get that way with music. There's a lot of times where if I'm listening to a song and it feels like it's going a specific direction, the chorus will hit and I'm like, oh fuck, I would have sang that differently. And then I'll come up with a different melody that I would have sang for that chorus. And that can be frustrating because I'm like, why didn't they do that? That would have been so much cooler. That happens more often for sure with music for me.
Music critic over here.
I mean, it's funny because I don't typically listen to, like, I used to listen to music all the time. And I think that just because of being in the industry and being around it all the time, I have kind of, it's lost its charm for me in that way, where I feel almost like if I'm listening to music, I'm doing work, like I'm doing research or something, even though it's not meant to be that way. And so I find myself listening to a lot of podcasts and audiobooks and that kind of stuff rather than listening to music.
What's your favorite kind of like genre of podcast? What do you kind of listen to normally?
It depends. There's a couple. I mean, obviously, true crime is a huge thing in the podcast world, and there's a couple of those that I really like. There's a couple cinematography ones that I really like. There was one that I started listening to a couple weeks ago called The Blackout, and it's with Rami Malek, and he plays this radio DJ that it's laid out like a movie, like you're listening to a movie. It's really cool, but it's in a small town, I think in New Hampshire or Vermont or something, and the power goes out, and then it's like the world goes to shit, and it's him trying to kind of make his community a place that feels safe and live, and that's been cool to listen to. So it just depends on my mood, really.
Just some interesting stuff. I would definitely want to check out some of the cinematography ones, because I don't really watch TV or movies or anything. So music and podcasts are kind of my thing.
Okay.
And I don't know if you watched the Don't Shit on the Bus stuff. I know Vinny was a guest on there once, but
no,
it's
is
Neil
that?
From
Oh,
Data
that's
Render and Adam.
Okay, yeah.
That stuff kind
no,
of helped me a lot. So.
I haven't listened to that. Is that more like photo stuff, like, or is it just kind of an all-around mix?
Everyone on. It's kind of a mix, but it's opened my eyes with like the industry a lot, and I guess helped me learn a bunch of stuff. I guess it's more for people that are trying to join it more than that are already in it. If it makes sense. So you just kind of go through everything.
So it's like more so geared towards people trying to break into the industry.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Interesting. That sounds cool. I'll have to listen to it. I knew about it, and then I knew that Ben did the podcast, and but I didn't listen to it. I'm a bad friend.
No, honestly, I don't know if I've watched his episode, so might just be bad.
So it must not be that good then.
No, it's good. It's good. I'm not bashing it at all. It's very great. Just don't think I've seen that.
I think you are bashing it a little bit.
No, I've
throwing shade.
Podcast.
Great.
Yeah, now there's one to be a bad person.
Nah, I don't think so. There's a podcast called. There's one that I like that's way more about like the commercial side of cinematography called Go Creative Show, and it's a guy that he's a commercial cinematographer that works out of Boston, I think, and he interviews all sorts of DPs that work on movies and TV shows, and there's a lot of really cool episodes about how they go into what their plan is for like lighting scenes and how they want to get their emotional point across in that regard, and it's really cool, really interesting.
Yeah. Speaking of lighting, what kind of light do you have behind you? Is that like an aperture?
This one?
Yeah.
It's a company called Nanlite.
Ah, yes.
And they're what? Do you have those too?
That's the tubes I have right under me. But
nice. I have some tubes as well.
The light storm that you have on there or something?
It is the. Are you talking about the softbox?
No, just the light itself.
Just the light. The light is a Forza.
Okay.
It's one of the Forza lights that's a bicolor. And then the softbox is just this big pop open softbox that's really easy. It's really heavy though, so that kind of sucks because the C-stand does not like it.
I have like this deep parabolic like 40-inch one that I use for everything, and it's the worst to carry around, but I like the fact that it just pops open, but it's just not fun.
Yeah, so that's a
carrier,
lot.
So I'm sorry that I went off track a little. Just got excited.
Oh no, it's okay. I don't mind.
You're a podcast, dude. You can do whatever you want with it.
Yeah, this is your show. I'm just here.
Your world. We're just living
in
our
show.
Listen, let's talk about the light.
No, but I like the whole setup. It's cool.
Thank you. It's a work in progress. You know what I really need to do is, that's really been bothering me, is I need to figure out a way to soundproof this room, or at least absorb some of it, because the ceilings are so high that everything just echoes. So anytime I do any sort of voice or any audio recording at all, it just fucking reflection city in here, and it sucks.
On your videos, is that why you use like a Zoom, or are you using a Zoom mic for that?
Yeah, the one that I hand hold is a Zoom, and then I have a Sennheiser shotgun mic that I usually will use as like a dialogue mic, and that typically is pretty all right as long as I'm close enough to my face.
And I feel like the Zoom really worked well too during the haunted episode thing.
Yeah, it definitely helped a lot.
Kind of made the video feel like it had that eerie vibe. Also, the way you were talking in that too, I guess, helps.
Did that when
that
I was
video
recording that
sketched me out too? Because like just hearing it be like, I think I hear something. I'm like, this is freaking me out. Like this is too much for me.
that was in the height of my fear. I was like terrified recording that, and just because I felt like I had continuously kept hearing shit, and it was getting louder and more pronounced, and it's like the more that I didn't pay attention to it, the more it was like, pay attention to me, I'm here.
And I imagine being in like Pennsylvania, it's kind of more desolate, and there's probably nobody around. Especially at the
there's
time of
definitely, yeah. Well, and the scary thing is sometimes I have a lot of deer that run around back here in my backyard, and so sometimes if I'm on my laptop or working on something in here, I'll just hear a deer just like right outside my window, and I'll hear him just go. And I'm just like, holy fuck, it sounds like a fucking demon outside my window. So that's a little scary, but for the most part, it's not bad.
No more paranormal experiences after that?
No, I don't know what happened. It just kind of, I don't know if I just stopped thinking about it or stopped worrying about it, but I haven't really felt anything crazy since then. It's a lot, if anything, I will wake up in the middle of the night just feeling terrified for no reason and then fall back to sleep. And that happens.
Really, really comforting. That's super comforting.
I don't know if it's just because I'm alone or if it's just because I don't know. I'm not sure what it is. It's just very weird.
I feel like during the video, it's more of a, you're probably anxious and thinking about it, and then you hear one little thing that normally you wouldn't think of, like, oh shit.
Yep.
But because of the whole thing behind the video, now you're like, fuck, what was that?
Yep. And then it doesn't help that I have people I had a girl comment on the video and say, I'm a medium, you have something there, don't interact with it. I'm like, oh, what does that mean?
It's like, sick, I have been already, like, what now?
Yeah, and then I tried to ask what it was just to get more clarity. Like, is this something I should be afraid of? Or because if I'm not supposed to interact with it, which I typically try not to anyway, if it's something that I should know not to interact with, I would like to, not. But
like, are you a friend? Are you here to hurt you? Like,
exactly, yeah. Are you trying to possess me? Is that what's happening here?
Hopefully it's just a little friend. If it's anything.
That's what I'm trying to tell myself as I wake up in the middle of the night terrified. I'm like, it's just my friend standing in the corner.
He's just chilling. He's totally fine. He's just thirsty.
Yeah. Yep.
So it's not one of those sleep paralysis things. It's never experienced.
No, because I can move.
Oh, okay.
I don't think so. I definitely can still move because I just wake up terrified and then I'm just roll over, a blanket over my head, and that's where the night ends for me, and I just go back to sleep.
Does your dog ever like feel or like bark or anything if there's like nothing going on that's kind of weird? Or
I think that's the thing that makes me be like, I don't know if I don't know if it's just my imagination being overactive, because I feel like if there was something here for real, if he was, hanging out, he might actually have some sort of a reaction to it, but nothing.
Yeah, normally animals are a pretty good like way to suss out if there's like a weird vibe going on. So I feel like if not barking, I think you're just chill. He's probably just chilling right now.
Yeah.
Now we're gonna have you paranoid for the whole until you go back out on the road.
Seriously, I'm actually getting tattooed after this, so at least I can leave and feel pain and not think about it, and then come home and be like, I'm good.
What are you getting done?
Just getting my arm finished. I've been getting my arm worked on forever, and I finally found an artist this past year that's been like, I'll finish it for you.
Nice.
And so I'm going in for my last session today to finish it. Woo. And then yeah.
What part do you have to go over now? Like, what part of your arm do you have to fill in? Have fun.
I know. The best for last.
Part that I have to get to. I have that, and then I have my elbow, and I was like, my artist really did me dirty, leaving the two worst spots for last.
Elbow wasn't terrible.
They always do that.
I just got my chest done in like
too bad either.
2 weeks ago. Went from here to here, and this was like nothing. I just got here, it was like, alright. And then the last hour was just like agony.
I just got my back done a couple weeks ago, and I thought that like that was the closest that I've ever been to seeing God. I was like, nope, I'm absolutely never wanting to get this touched ever again.
Yep. And it sucks because, especially if it's a big piece, you're like, cool, I've just committed to something that I do not want to follow through on.
Yeah. As soon as the stencil went on, I was like, yeah, no, this is going to look super sick. I'm like checking it out in the mirror. And then as soon as I laid down on the table, I'm like, I shouldn't have done this. Like, why did I think that this was a good idea? And she's like, you ready to go? And I was like, I fucking guess so. Like, I just like put my head down and just like contemplated my entire existence.
And it gets worse as you get older too. I feel like I remember tattoos hurting so much less, and now every time just sucks.
Yeah, when I first started getting tattooed to now, I'm like, I'm trying to get covered in like a couple of years because I cannot do this shit anymore. It just is the worst.
Yep.
And that piece here, that's like your whole, is that like your logo kind of a thing?
Yes.
That's because I know you dropped some merch plug. I know you sold out of that stuff, but
you're
bringing shirts or something in soon, right?
Yes, I have shirts made already. I'm just waiting on a couple designs for new hoodies. I actually, hold on, I'll show you.
Ooh,
little sneak peek.
I just got these stickers made, and this is the design that's gonna be on the back of the hoodie, which I'm pretty stoked on.
Love it.
Nice.
So yeah, I'm just waiting to get that finalized, and then just have to have them printed, and yeah, so I'm excited about that.
Is that going to be like a kind of like a special edition drop too, or they're going to be there to kind of stay?
I don't know. I'm kind of wrestling with the idea of trying to do something different for each thing that I put out, just to kind of make everything feel, I don't know, exclusive, I guess.
Not a bad idea.
But it's also just more expensive to do it that way, because you have to pay for them to set up the screens, and then, it's like every time you choose to do something new, you're paying extra just for them to set it up. And so I don't know. I'm going to definitely do it that way. It just feels better to do it that way.
I'm gonna have to pick something up next time because I missed the first drop.
Okay. Or just let me know. Send me your size.
No. Absolutely.
Why?
No. But yeah. Also, I know you've been talking about Patreon thing. That was like something that was up in the air.
Yep. That was really just because I'd seen a couple people say, how can I support you in doing, outside of the band? And that was one of the options that I had seen. So I started looking into it, and I was like, maybe this would be a good idea to do. And just the more that I thought about it, the more I was like, I don't know. I don't want to feel like pressured to create something specifically because I know that people are paying for it. And I just don't know if I want to lock myself into something like that. Because I don't know. I like having the freedom to be able to work on whatever I want to work on. And that's part of the reasons why I love having multiple outlets, is being able to, like, if I get burned out on one thing, I can just switch gears and start working on something else. So everything always feels like this constant influx of being fresh and new. And I feel like if I force myself to do something like that and stay locked in knowing that people are paying for it, it's going to become more of a job and more of less of a creative outlet and more of like I'm doing this because people are paying for it, and I don't want it to feel that way.
Mm-hmm. And it would probably take away your time of creating, like, I guess, touching base on your video from yesterday, like spending your time creating something that both you and the viewers will enjoy, rather than
exactly
having to throw something together real quick just because you have to.
Definitely. That's another big part of it as well.
Though,
yeah.
But I understand as well.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely makes sense for specific types of creators. I know of people that have done it and been successful with it. But at the same time, I also just have so much other shit that I want to do, and I don't know if I could focus on other things while also trying to constantly trying to provide for YouTube, but knowing that there's people's money are involved, which is way more stress, and I don't know if I want to do that. So that's where I'm at.
Totally understandable.
Yeah.
And I think Lils had a little game that she wanted to play. You want to get into
Oh,
that?
yeah. So like when I do like my clients' makeup, I always like I can tell that they're nervous, I just try to do like a little icebreaker kind of thing. So I wanted to do like a little this or that kind of vibe, if you're okay with that.
Dang, we should have done this at the beginning.
Yeah. Well,
kind of
we're just backwards today. It's totally fine.
That's okay.
So the first one that I have down is aliens or ghosts. And I know that we just kind of talked about little ghost things, but like if you were to like dive into one, aliens or ghosts.
Probably ghosts.
Yeah.
I just feel like there's so much, I don't know, I just have more intrigue as far as ghosts go. Aliens are cool, and I would love to, I definitely think that there's something out there, because it just feels silly to think that we're the only conscious beings in the entire universe.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I like the idea. I've always been super into the idea of where we come from and where we go after we die, and just the existentialism of what are we doing here? What's our purpose? And I think that, I don't know, I think that ghosts just lend more to that, because it's more, there's just such a question mark at the end of life that is so interesting to me. And so yeah, ghosts.
awesome. Have you had like other experiences like paranormal outside of, you know, what you're going through right now? Like, have you had other paranormal experiences?
Oh yeah, many.
Like that's a whole
Do
deep
you want to
dive.
tell us one? I love talking about ghosts.
The main one that's I mean, if you guys watch the ghost video, the main one that I always talk about because it's the most terrifying one is the one with the thing standing at the foot of my bed.
Yeah.
Outside of that, I used to live in a house that was absolutely haunted. It was this big house that I lived in with a bunch of people, and I think it was built in like 1890 or something.
Wow.
And it was a summer house that so this area is super well known for coal mining, and they would go underground and mine the coal from here and then ship it all over. And a bunch of the wealthy, I guess, coal people had this little community of summer houses up in the mountains here, and now they're just regular houses that people live in. And when we first moved in, the neighborhood was everyone was very nice, but it was a lot of instances of we'd be out walking around or driving by and would come across somebody, and they would go, "Oh, are you new here?" And be like, "Yeah, we live in that house over there." And they go, "Oh, you're living in that house?" And there was never any explanation as to what that means.
Do you think
it was
they were
a lot
like
of
playing games though? Or just trying to get you guys like all worried?
No, I think I think it was more of just maybe there had been a lot of people in and out of the house, so it was a lot of like, "Oh, you're in that house, that makes sense." But the way that I took it was, "Oh, you're in that fucking terrifying house that nobody wants to stay in."
Be careful.
And so that was the first thing that I was like, "This is a little weird." But a lot of weird shit in that house, as far as like the front door would just open by itself, just swing open for no reason. And they were big, heavy, like I don't know what kind of wood they were, but they were the big, heavy, dark brown wood doors. And they were double doors, and they would both just swing open. Where I'd be upstairs in my bedroom, and I'd come downstairs, and the front doors would be wide open. And that kind of stuff. And then there was a time where I had gotten up to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, and I heard sounded like somebody doing dishes downstairs. Like, that's weird, because it's like the middle of the night, but there's 6 or 7 other people living here, so who knows? And so I walked downstairs, and the second I turned the corner into the kitchen, there's nothing. There's nobody in there. There's not even dishes in the sink. Just a lot of weird little shit like that. I never saw anything. I know people that had stayed there, like one of my friends that lived there, his girlfriend, I'm pretty sure, I can't remember the exact way that she experienced it, but from what I remember of it, it was something like she was alone while he was at work, and she heard a voice say something like through the door, say something like, "Hey, you." And
that's
she's like,
really
"What
creepy.
the fuck?" Just so a lot of it was just weird little shit like that.
Yeah.
But I don't think anybody saw anything. I experienced my bed shaking before, like as if somebody grabbing the leg of the bed and just vibrating it. And mind you, there's no like train tracks or running trains or anything like that nearby this area. So yeah, a lot of weird shit like that. So I've definitely had my fair share of experiences.
And with the alien things, at the UFO museum, I was kind of bummed out about it. I don't know if you felt the same way. I don't know, I just expected a lot more from it.
I mean, based on where it was, I kind of had a feeling that it was going to be pretty underwhelming. And Roswell itself is pretty underwhelming.
I mean, Roswell,
just because there's nothing.
It was just I had high expectations for that museum. I was going into it thinking like there'd be a whole bunch of shit, and it was just a lot of reading, which is fine. But I just feel like I was disappointed.
Yeah, I mean, I guess how else do you have a museum about aliens? You know what I mean? Yeah. I like, how do you make it more exciting?
People are still in that debate of like, do they exist? I mean, we really don't know. So, I guess, yeah, it makes sense.
But at the same time, you know, they could have brought it to the 21st century to some degree. It did feel very dated and very feel like it was built in the early 90s and then nobody touched it since then. Yeah. So I definitely get that.
You had the second one, Lils?
Yes, I'm just trying to see because I wrote this down, but we kind of already touched on it. U.S. tour or your tour? Like Europe or U.S. tour?
I like both for different reasons.
Yeah, I don't think that's the whole point.
I don't think I can choose one. I think if I had to choose, I would say U.S. just because of just being at home and being in the comfort of my own country and having phone service. That, I mean, not that I don't have it over there, but it's not the same. And and then there's, you know, some sort of a language barrier depending on the country that you're in. And there's a lot of difficulties as far as like venues not having great internet and a lot of first world problems, stuff that it's making me choose the US. But I love Europe as a whole, and I don't want me choosing the US to have people be like, he fucking hates us. Yeah, because I love Europe, and I'm very stoked to go back. So it's hard to choose.
Do you find that there's like a crowd difference between the States and Europe? Like in terms of energy, I guess?
I think that depends on the country.
Okay.
Yes and no. There are a lot of places that it feels very, very similar, but then there's places like, I want to say Luxembourg we played, and it was, the last time we were there, it was like dead silent when we played.
Really?
And we were like, do they like us or what is happening? And the sound guy that was there, that was like a house sound guy, he was like, no, they fucking love you guys. We're like, they're like dead silent. It doesn't feel like anybody cares that we're here. So a lot of weird, I think, just cultural differences.
Yeah.
Because I know that it's that way in Japan as well, where you finish a song and everybody claps and cheers for like 10 seconds and then it's dead silent because they're super respectful of, they want to know what you have to say, or if you're going to talk, they want to be attentive to what you're going to talk about. Yeah. So it's out of respect, but it was super weird to get used to because, you know, you're used to just people fucking screaming the whole time. And so having that happen was very jarring when we were in Japan. But it depends on the place for sure.
How long ago were you guys in Japan?
We've only been there once, and it was in, I think, 2010.
Oh, okay.
It's been a long time
ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
I missed the Mexico show with Bring Me, but I know that crowd was definitely insane. How was that experience?
That one was crazy. Very, very loud. That one, I can't hear what's going on because of my in-ears. Can't hear outside of that. And this, I could hear everything. It was so loud that I had a hard time hearing my mix in my ears because of how loud it was. And I was just like, how are people not leaving this place deaf? But yeah, it was crazy. It was very, very awesome.
Because you and Bring Me kind of like, were around like in that time, like 2010 kind of sound. You guys were kind of growing together, and now Motionless is at like a very like an insane higher level than what it was at that point. But so is Bring Me. Is it cool to like see those people that you were like maybe not as popular at one point with, and now you both have grown to this like, multi-million monthly listener kind of thing, arena shows? Like, is it like, how does that feel to see?
Yeah, obviously it's a amazing feeling. It's also very cool to tour with bands that are like that and kind of share that sort of growth with bands that actually deserve it.
Yeah.
I know that there's a lot of like, I don't want to like start drama or like talk shit or anything, but but sometimes there's bands that blow up and you're like, at least for me, I'm like, I just don't get it, because they don't seem like nice people, they don't seem like good people, and I don't know why people are looking past. I know that there can be a sort of disconnect between the artist and the art, but at the same time, I feel like, why are we supporting people that aren't good people? That just feels like such common sense to me. And it continues to happen, and I guess that's just the nature of any sort of, whether it be the music industry or the movie industry or anything. People are inevitably going to be bad people that end up being successful. And so to go back, it's very cool to see a band like Bring Me, who are actually really, really great people at their core, and continue to make great albums and continue to just do awesome things. Very cool.
Yeah. They were like one of like my favorite bands when I was back in high school, because like at that time it was like, at the time Pray for Plagues was like the heaviest thing that I had ever heard, and I was just like, what is this? And now like it's cool to see like them transition from like deathcore to whatever genre they're in now. It's like you're listening to like 3 different bands in the timeline of Bring Me the Horizon, and I think that that's really cool to see.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things about them that I really enjoy, is that they're not afraid to try new things, and everything that they put out is good. Whether it be super electronic shit, whether it be this new sort of pop punk type thing that they're experimenting with, or whether it be their old shit that's super heavy. They're just good at songwriting, and everything that they put out is amazing. So it's cool to see talented people succeed.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't think you guys are too far off either. Like from Creatures all the way to Scoring, I feel like you hear those changes, and it's like so subtle, but also very different.
Creatures will always be the best album. Creatures.
Fuck yeah. Fucking Creatures. We're going back to that shit. Actually, you're going to have to edit that out, because everybody's going to be like, what? No, I thank you, first of all, for saying that. It's been a long time of experimentation, I feel like, to get to where we are, and figuring out what works for us and what doesn't. And, we had to go through the infamous era to get here, and that wasn't an easy time period for our band. So it feels validating every step of the way, being here and seeing the growth that we've had, and being able to share that with everybody that listens and supports us. So yeah.
Fuck yeah. You had one more, right?
I just have one last one. This is like in regards of tattoos, just because you obviously have like 1 or 2 tattoos, so I figured I'd ask you this.
Just a couple, yeah.
Yeah, like I think you only have your throat done. That's all that you have. You got the one tuxedo going on.
Yeah, I also have a little butterfly on my back as well, so there's
very
that as
classy.
well. Yeah,
Stunning.
it's on my lower back actually.
Oh, perfect. Do you have the dolphin jumping through the wave on your ankle too?
No, just the tramp stamp.
Oh, nice, sick.
Yeah.
When you're going in, do you prefer to do, like, if you're doing a big piece, do you like to do multiple sessions or just kind of bang it out in one go?
I have to do multiple sessions.
Yeah.
I as much as I would love to just do it and get it over with, it's just not possible. There's just no way. I it especially depends on the area too. If it's an area that's relatively easy, sure, let's bang it out. But if it's an area like my neck or my chest, it's just not happening. Like I got my neck done, had it outlined, and I was like, that's enough of that. And then I went back in, had one. The neck?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fucking terrible.
Well, I guess for me it wasn't, but I guess you go up here too, and I could see that being a not so fun area.
Well, the other thing also with that is that the tattoo artist that did it, he has a very heavy hand, so when he pushes, it feels like he's literally like putting all of his weight into the machine. And then also, most of the time people will like wet a paper towel and then wipe it. He doesn't do that. He dry wipes as well.
Nice.
So
nice.
Very heavy hand and dry wipes, and all of those things combined make it a very unpleasant experience. But he's amazing at what he does, so you just deal with it.
Suck it up. Yeah.
Yep.
Did you have to kind of learn how to, like, when you're getting your neck done, like, breathing? Like, were you nervous that you were like swallowing weird and stuff, or like having like your neck move almost?
No, I thought that I would. I was a little nervous on the Adam's apple with how that was, like, it's so pointy, like how are you going to tattoo over that? But it was just him pulling it off to the side and tattooing on the side. So he never actually went over my Adam's apple.
Which I've heard people do that with the chin too. I've heard people that have done
the chin was the same way. But all the black in here he did with a liner. So that was fucking sick.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good time.
Yeah. Yep.
When I was getting my like sternum done, I started to have a panic attack during it because I was focusing too much on how I was breathing, to the point where I was like actually starting to do like a trampoline breathing, and I'm like, oh my god, you have to get off of me right now or else I'm going to pass out. That was the only tattoo that I've ever tapped out of, and I'm like actually convinced I'm never gonna go get it finished.
How long ago was that?
2020, so 3 years now.
It's as good as never ending right now.
Yeah.
We'll eventually get it done.
No,
everyone's gonna get it.
I'm good with the little outline. It's totally cool.
As long as you're happy with it, I don't feel like there's any reason to put yourself through the pain if you don't want to.
It's just not worth it. It's just not worth it to me.
Yeah, I feel that for sure.
Christian, do you got some fan questions?
I believe we do. I know you answered one kind of. Somebody mentioned the book thing.
Yeah.
Which I wasn't too sure about. Like, I didn't know if that was something you wanted to talk about or whatever, but you touched base on it already, which is good.
Cool.
Let me go back in here. Where is it at?
He's got so many questions.
We're gonna have to do a speed round with these questions because I have to leave in 15 minutes.
Yep.
Sorry.
Yep.
No, it's all right. It happens. You just start talking, especially me, because I just fucking ramble. But it's my fault. You can blame it on me.
No, it's not. So what is touring like now compared to 10 years ago when Motionless kind of was getting popular, but Just freeze.
I thought there was more of the question.
No, sorry.
So, I'll put it this way in simple terms. Back then, there was a lot of people standing there doing this to us when we would play, and now we don't get that anymore. So that's a very simple way of putting it. It's sick to play and not have a middle finger at me. Good time.
Next time I go to a show, I'm just gonna
It'll just be Christian and I just flipping you off.
Yeah. Like, who the fuck is that? Just...
But that one was from Sign of .life. Figured I'll just throw there in there too.
Oh yeah.
So Space Gray Wayfair says biggest turning point in career and something nobody would know about what it's like to do what you do.
Biggest turning point. I want to say, I guess after COVID felt like a turning point. I don't know why, but it felt like we came back from COVID and the shows were just fucking massive. I was like, what happened? Like, we didn't play a show for 2 years, and I don't know if, I think at first everyone thought that it was just because people were anxious to get back to being at shows and going to see bands, but the more that the year went on, it was like, this is a consistent thing. What the fuck is going on? And it just felt kind of like all of a sudden we were playing in, mini arenas. And so definitely last year felt like a big turning point, at least for me. And then what was the second question? I'm sorry.
It's something nobody would know about, what it's like to do what you do.
Something that nobody would know about.
I guess something that's I don't know how they were kind of putting it, but I would imagine like something that's nobody in your position, like if they're not a musician or something, would kind of, that's kind of where I'm thinking they're heading.
I would say something that nobody would know. I don't know. Maybe the fact that privacy is not really a thing. When you're crammed into a bus with 12 people, you typically don't have privacy. So if you're in your bunk on the phone, whoever
Everyone's
you're talking
listening.
to, everybody's listening. You can assume that if you're on the phone in any regard, anywhere, somebody's listening. So privacy is a luxury when it comes to touring.
That's fair. And I'll get one more from Switchblade Fuck. Have you ever considered writing your own solo project songs? Anything, even instrumental?
I'm sorry. That's just so fucking sick. Just
Switchblade Fuck.
Yeah.
And I messed up the
name. You can re-say the name if you want.
Switchblade Fuck. There we go. Got it done in one.
Okay. Would I ever do my own music?
Yeah, like I guess your own solo things.
Like,
whether it be guitar or fully composed.
I don't know. I've thought about it in some vague fashion over the years. But I think if I did that, it would be something reminiscent of like Drop Dead Gorgeous or a band like that. And I don't know if a band like that really has a place in today's music. I just don't know if that's a tight, because it feels like a lot of those types of bands are kind of falling away into oblivion. And I feel like a lot of people probably don't even know who that is anymore. So I just feel like, again, this just goes back to me just being like, I have too many other things to do. But there's just other things that I want to do more than doing something like that. Maybe at some point I would visit that. But as of right now, I feel like there's just other priorities I have, other things that I would rather spend my time doing. And if I'm going to write music, like, why would I not just work on Motionless shit instead of my own stuff? So yeah, I guess that's a nutshell way of answering that for sure.
I think it was all good answers. But we appreciate you coming on. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you guys
so much for the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate it. I'm glad that we could make it work, and I'm glad that everything was successful.
Yeah, I had my
the most success.
Little awkwardness, but trying to break out of that.
It's all right. It's the first one back. Once you get a few more people under your belt, you'll.
It's as soon as it says record, it's like NPC time. Don't know how to act like a human anymore.
It's funny that you say that, because that's how I felt when I started turning the camera around to myself. I was like, oh God, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing here. Because, when you're making actual shorts and stuff, you don't want the actors looking at the camera. So for me, it was like, oh God, I don't think I'm supposed to be looking at the camera, but I'm supposed to be filming myself or something. So I definitely know that feeling for sure.
Yeah.
We all get it. But good luck on your tattoo, and safe travels to the tour.
Thank you.
Yeah. Have fun. Don't die.
Thank you. I hope to make it back from Europe in one piece.
You better.
Appreciate you guys.
Also too.
Appreciate
you. Thank you so much.
So.
Hell yeah. We'll see you then, and I'm sure that our paths will cross many more times.
Absolutely.
Going forward. Hell yeah. Thank you guys.
No, thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a good one.
You too. Bye guys.
Bye.